starfarers are very powerful beings that provide many abilities to aid their chosen starbearers. These abilities can range from passives that can increase various stats such as health and damage to very strong, very powerful novas. The starfarers are on a journey to defeat the evil that the first starfarer has unleashed across the universe. Will I be the one to defeat all the evil corrupting this universe, or will I follow down the path of evil as well? I spawned in with a spatial disc in my inventory, and when used, I had to choose between one of two starfarers, the Umbral wielder Iridani and the Astral wielder Asphodine. The difference between the two is that Umbral is more strategic and complex, while Astral is more powerful and flashy. I'm not a very smart guy, so I went with the Astral wielder Asphodine. Once she was chosen, she talked a bit about how she's trying to stop evil, or how she's trying to save the universe, but what really got my attention were these things she mentioned called essences that are key components in making aspected weapons. Another important thing she mentioned was the spatial disc menu. This menu contained everything to be known about what abilities she could grant me and how to travel the universe. The only section I could access was the Stellar Array, and it contained all of the passive abilities, but I wouldn't be able to use any of them until I defeated a boss. After the super confusing introduction, I began playing like normal, by getting wood and mining. Later on, I talked to Asphodine and she started telling me about what a starfarer actually is. She said that starfarers are the manifestation of the universe's will to vanquish threats, but she also said after that her memory was really foggy. I guess some accident happened or some shit, but she said her memory is really foggy and she can't actually really remember. She just said, "I'm on your side." Now, I don't know what would have happened to make me write this, but I wrote in my notes, "She is kind of funny, I think I'm falling for her." Anyway, on day 2, I got really annoyed with the zombies and made a mini little shelter for myself. I made a platinum sword inside of the mini shelter, and it got me thinking that I'm not so sure about what weapons this mod has to offer, so I took a little peek, and all I'll say is that this looks super duper complicated. Afterwards, I began making my house and NPC housing, and after that was done, I began exploring and looking for a cave. While I was looking, I came across a desert and made the helmet and the leggings of the cactus armor. Eventually, I found a cave to the left, but I had a very rough fall. I went right back to the cave, but it turned out to be a fucking dead end. Again, in my notes I wrote, "Asphodine is cracking jokes, she is so cute." I don't know what was circling through my mind when I wrote this. Later that night, I didn't want to be holed up in my house waiting for days, so I began fighting my way through the night to explore to the left. By the time day 3 rolled around, I got to the tundra biome and was suddenly overwhelmed by a whole bunch of zombies. I really didn't want to go back out and fight and all of that, so I finished getting my cactus armor and began starting the elevator. After barely starting the elevator, I wanted to go back outside to look for another cave, and the storm was so nice, there was not a monster in sight. I ended up back in the tundra and I found an ice cave, but it was shit. Afterwards, the blood moon rose and I just continued doing the elevator. I continued doing the elevator into day 4. After getting bored, I went to go get a musket, and once I got it, I used a teleportation potion and teleported right into the perfect place, a mushroom biome. From there, I did a whole bunch of mining. On day 5, I made a platinum pickaxe and continued the elevator. While mining the elevator, I found a trapped chest, and I attempted to disarm it, but I didn't. I ended up doing a lot of mining in that elevator and ignoring the goblin army because I did not want to deal with them. While mining, I ended up finding another trapped chest, and I wanted to redeem myself really bad and attempted to disarm it again, but I didn't. Later on, I decided that I should go deal with the goblin army and had a nasty combo with the falling star, but eventually on day 6, I ditched the goblin army and continued the elevator again. On day 7, I made platinum armor and began searching the sky for clouds in hopes of getting the Star Fury, but I ended up getting some wings, and I thought that was alright. Afterwards, I finally dealt with the goblin army and accidentally threw TNT inside of my house. Later that night, I defeated the Eye of Cthulhu, and Asphodine gave me my first ability called the Star Shield. With the Star Shield equipped, when struck, I gained 10% of my max health as defense for 2 seconds, gained 20 mana upon activation, and 20% damage increase for the duration of the shield. She also opened up a new section of the spatial disc that is used to travel the galaxy, and there are lots and lots of places to go to. On day 8, I traveled to the only place that was accessible to me at this point, called the Observatory. This place is the temporary home of Eridani and Asphodine, as they are from a different galaxy and they had a lot to tell me. They started off by telling me that the Moray galaxy, my galaxy, is freezing over and they only met me because my planet is habitable thanks to the sun. The observatory defined this disaster as the Ardor, and most of the galaxy has moved inwards to escape the cold. They told me I must become stronger and that I will be able to explore the cosmos once I make a stellaglyph. To make one, I obviously need the right component, but I must also use the Celestiad root to craft it. They said when traveling they will have to transpose me to whatever location instead of using normal travel, so movement abilities will be unavailable while I'm off the planet. They then wished me good luck and gave me my first essence, the essence of the Dark Moon. Once I got back home, I used the essence to make the Carrion Dark Moon, and it was an amazing sword. With it, I defeated the Eater of Worlds and unlocked a new ability called the Iron Will in the Stellar Array. For defeating it, I got 2 more essences, the Essence of Outer Gods and the Essence of the Anomaly. I then made the Neo Dealbreaker using the Essence of the Anomaly, and this gun was awesome. Getting all these essences helped me figure out that I probably only get essences from defeating certain things or like going to new areas, so on day 9 I decided to go defeat the Slime King. I unlocked a new ability called the Cyclic Hunter and also got a new essence, the Essence of the Aegis. I didn't end up getting the slime mount though, so I began farming for the slime mount. It took me 2 more tries to get it. Afterwards, I began farming for black ink to make the Taconomicon using the Essence of Outer Gods. Once I was done, I messed around with the 3 weapons that I had so far, and they were fun. They were so fun and cool. The next day, I defeated Deerclops and got the Essence of Vampirism. This essence made by far the coolest weapon in this mod. It made the Morningstar from Castlevania, and it comes with Alucard's sword as a summon, and Sypha's powers. After making the best weapon ever, I made the Stellaglyph Tier 1 and the Stellaglyph room. I finished the room on day 11 and used the Stellaglyph to travel to the first place, Mining Station Ares. The enemies there were pretty easy, and the only loot that was there were these things called prismatic cores. I have no clue what to do yet, but they're used to make some very good stuff later on. Overall, it was a pretty mid place, and I then decided to travel to the Cygnus asteroid field. While I was there, I met this guy named Yo Jimbo, and he was a pretty cool guy. He was talking about like politics and shit and like what was going on, like this whole war or whatever. I actually have no clue what he was talking about. All I got there were more prismatic shards, and I noticed that time does not seem to pass while I am off planet, which is kind of weird. I spent the rest of day 11 looking for an enchanted boomerang. I continued looking for this boomerang into day 12, and after I couldn't find it for a while, I decided to Google it to see what was going on. And I guess in 1.4, you have to find a wooden boomerang and then craft it from there. After that whole shitty fiasco was done, I went and got ore from a meteor because, and I quote from my notes, "cause Bay told me to." On day 13, I finally found a wooden boomerang and I got some ruby and made the Aegis Driver, which was a cool fire sword that explodes when this little bar that you like fill is full. I then went looking for a beehive and defeated the queen bee, which gave me a really good opportunity to use the sword, and it was pretty cool. After the fight, I got the Essence of Bitterfrost, and I made the Skofnung, I have no clue, whatever. But it pokes like a spear, and it provides a sword summon, which was really cool. Afterwards, I continued the Hellavator. Into day 14, and I actually ended up finishing it. While I was there, I got a whole bunch of Hellstone, and once I got back up, I made up Molten Armor. I then made the Skeletron Arena, and later that night, defeated the Skeletron. After the fight, I got the Essence of the Free Shooter. On day 15, I began exploring the dungeon, and while I was in the dungeon, I think it was because I entered another area, I got another essence called the Essence of Misery. Now, I don't know what was going on down in the dungeon, but the enemies were spawning like absolutely fucking crazy. It was bonkers down there, it was nuts. Since these aspected weapons seemed to need an actual weapon to go with the essence, I grabbed a whole bunch of weapons while I was in the dungeon. Once I got out, I made the, sorry for my pronunciation, the Durfrischütz out of the Essence of the Free Shooter, and it's a gun that shoots from the cursor, but it was kinda shit. Right after that, I made the Misery's Company out of the Essence of Misery, and it switches between a sword, a scythe, and a shotgun. And this weapon ended up replacing my other gun from earlier that I got way long ago. After making those weapons, I noticed I can make a whole bunch of companions using the prismatic cores. This is going to say a lot about me, but I was trying to decide between the Twin Hounds, the Bunny Girl, or the Rockstar Girl. I ended up going with the Twin Hounds. Afterwards, I traveled to the observatory to make the Stellaglyph Tier 2. Once I got back home, after placing down the improved Stellaglyph, I got the Essence of the Automation. On day 16, I made the Pod 0-42 out of the essence of the automation, and it summons a drone that stays right next to me and shoots at things. I can also use right click to force it to shoot faster at the cost of mana. Now that the Stellaglyph tier 2 is made, I traveled to this place called Pixis, where I met a girl named Garradine, and quote from my notes, not quote from me, in my notes I said she's very cute. After talking to her, she said she wanted a lifeform analyzer, so I thought I'd go get her one, but unfortunately I have to wait for the traveling merchant to arrive, and even then he still might not sell it. Afterwards, I traveled to a planet called Golem. It's a dead planet, and the enemies there are called soulless, and they drop these things called inert shards. It had a bunch of weird runes on the right that were super obnoxious to climb through, and when I went to the left, I climbed this super huge wall thinking there was something like at the top, but there wasn't. I just kind of like stuck to the ceiling afterwards and dropped down. Overall, it was a very depressing planet. Afterwards, I traveled to this place called Serpens, and it's a corrupted landmass most likely belonging to a Leviathan class entity. And whatever it is, I never want to meet what this thing came from. After that, I traveled to a planet called Tucana, and it's a jungle-like planet. And for some reason, I found the Goblin Tinker and Barkeep there. It was kind of weird, but that was really it for the planet. After that, I then traveled to another place called Scorpius, and it is a crimson moon, and there was nothing cool. After that, I then traveled to a place called Corvus, and it's a war-torn planet with nothing but scavs left. While I was there, I found Yojimbo again, and he said the same exact shit as last time. After an entire day of searching around the galaxy looking through all these planets, I have deemed most of them lame as fuck, but planets like Corvus, the war-torn planet, were actually pretty cool. After I got back from space, I went down to Hell to start the Hell Highway, and as soon as I got down there, I got this essence called the Essence of the Underworld Goddess. The weapon for this essence requires an ice sword, so after doing the Hell Highway for just a little bit, I went out to go look for one. Eventually I found the ice sword, and on day 17 I made the Persephone out of the Essence of the Underworld Goddess. For the rest of the day, I continued the Hell Highway, finished it, and began farming for a guide voodoo doll. Eventually I got one on day 18 and used it to defeat the Wall of Flesh. From the Wall of Flesh, I got something called a Shattered Disc that is used to summon the first boss from this mod, called the Vagrant of Space and Time. I also got the Essence of Blasting, the Essence of the Observatory, and the Essence of Silver Ash. I know I haven't been mentioning it a lot because there's a whole bunch of abilities in it, but in the Stellar Array I ended up locking my first tier 2 ability called Healthy Confidence that allows me to gain 150 maximum extra health and powerful health regeneration. I ended up using it for the rest of the playthrough. It was awesome. Afterwards, I made the Luminary Wand using the Essence of the Observatory, and it was pretty fire. I ended the day mining a whole bunch of altars and even getting a little bit of palladium while I was there. On day 19, I made the Force of Nature using the Essence of Blasting, and I mean, it was alright. I also made the Carlin True Silver using the Essence of Silver Ash, and it sucked. Afterwards, the stupid ass pirate army showed up, but I defeated them and ended up getting this essence called the Essence of Piracy, but there was no way I was ever going to use it because it required me to get a coin gun, and the coin gun only has a 1 in 8,000 drop chance. On day 20, I figured it was finally about time to take on the first modded boss, the Vagrant of Space and Time. I had defeated the Vagrant of Space and Time, and plot twist, it turns out to be Perseus, Asphidene's brother. Now he went on and on about death and destruction and the first Starfarer, but what I was interested in was this thing he gave me called a Stellar Nova, and it practically just gives me a super move to use that charges when I'm fighting enemies. The one that I got is called Theophana Inanis, and it summons a huge blade to slice foes. I also got the Essence of Izanagi and the Essence of the Watch. I made the Izanagi edge using obviously the Essence of Izanagi, and it was pretty ass. Afterwards, I decided to go do all the hard mode ores, and in doing so, I got the Essence of Gold. The next day, I made the Chrono Clock using the Essence of the Watch, and it was pretty good. I also made the Arum Edge using the Essence of Gold, and that weapon was fire. Oh, and I also made Titanium Armor. Afterwards, I began making the Destroyer Arena to then defeat the Destroyer later that night. On day 22 after the Destroyer fight, Perseus showed up, and he gave me something called an Ancient Shard that's used to summon Nalhan, the Burnished King. He also started rambling on again about how his mission is to stop the first Starfarer from wreaking havoc across the universe. From the Destroyer fight, I got the Essence of Butterflies and the Essence of the Gun Lance. I used both the essences right away to make the Veneration of Butterflies, which was pretty fucking good, and the Whole Rat, which was mid. After making the weapons, I also got the Essence of the Bionis and defeated the twins. I began the next day by making the Xenoblade using the Essence of the Bionis, and it was really good. It was really good. Afterwards, I decided I wanted to make the Stellaglyph Tier 3, so I defeated the Vagrant of Space and Time for more enigmatic dust, and headed back to Corvus for more banded Tenebrium to end up finishing the Stellaglyph Tier 3 the next day. My first expedition using the Stellaglyph Tier 3 was traveling to a planet called Lyra. It was nice and cute, there were like pinkies, and there were bunnies and shit. Then some huge boss spawned out of nowhere and I could do literally nothing to it. After that trip, I decided I'd had enough of space for a bit and decided to get pixie dust for wings and to defeat the Skeletron Prime at the end of the day. After defeating the Skeletron Prime, on day 25 I got the Essence of the Aerial Ace, the Essence of the Bull, and the Essence of the Renegade. I made a weapon called the Ride of the Bull using the Essence of the Bull, and it was fast but pretty shit. Then I made a weapon called the Ornaments of the Sky Striker using the Essence of the Aerial Ace, and the concept was super cool, but out of the 4 little things you could choose from, the Railgunner was easily the best. On day 26, I made a titanium drill to go get chlorophyte, but what I completely forgot about is that you need a Drax, not the titanium drill. So I went back, made the Drax, and then came back and got chlorophyte. I then used some of the chlorophyte to make chlorophyte armor. I spent the entirety of day 27 making the Plantera arena and ended up finishing it early on day 28. Now that the arena was finished, I defeated the Plantera. After the fight, I got the Summon for the Winch of Ink Penthesilea, I got the Essence of the Firefox and the Essence of the Swarm, and I also got this thing called the Overgrown Prism that buffs my Stellar Nova. I spent the rest of the day getting ectoplasm for the next weapon to make. On day 29, I made the Crimson Outbreak using the Essence of the Swarm, and it was pretty fire. Afterwards, I finally thought it was about time to take on the next modded boss, Nalhan the Burnished King, but oh boy, was this boss a tricky one. I tried and lost over and over, and I only kept losing because most of his attacks were one-shot, and I had to keep collecting these little prism things that like actually keep me alive during the fight. It was getting to the point where I was about to call it quits for the day, so I thought I'd try one final time. The Burnished King had been defeated, and what I got from him was a new Stellar Nova, and it was the really cool blade that was seen in the fight. I got the Essence of the Phantom and the Essence of Farewells, and I also got a mnemonic trace, and it says it's the trace of the first starfarers rampage. I ended the day using the Essence of Farewells to make the Kavesi Farewell, and it basically just increases the shit out of my luck and increases enemy spawns. On day 30, I used it to farm for the Amrock to make the Keyfrost, which summons a big ol' fox that summons an aura that increases defense by 15 and shoots stuff. Now, during the Burnished King fight, a whole bunch of the NPCs died and I needed to wait for some of them to respawn, so in the meantime, I went to go get more chlorophyte ore, which gave me a beautiful opportunity to try out the new Stellar Nova, and it was fucking awesome. Afterwards, to kill even more time, I made a surface mushroom biome because I knew I would need it eventually. Later on, I got super bored and decided to attempt the Witch of Ink, and she was fairly easy, but she just has a lot of health. Now the issue in doing this is that I spawned her way too close to the house, and all of the NPCs fucking died again. Now the reason this is such a big issue is because I wanted to wait for at least the teleport potion guy to come back so I could teleport right into the jungle temple instead of having to look for it so I could fight the golem. In the end, it came down to two options. One was look for the jungle temple myself, or two was to wait for the teleport potion guy to come back and I could just teleport right into the thing. So on day 31, I decided to wait for the NPC and go get Burger King. By the time I got back, the guy had not spawned yet, so I ended the day making a naughty present. Super early on day 32, I summoned the Frost Moon because I wanted to get to the Ice Queen, but I was not able to get to her. Afterwards, I defeated the Queen Slime and got the Essence of Chemtech, the Essence of the Hunt, and the Essence of Absolute Chaos. I then made the Dreadnought Chemtank using the Essence of Chemtech, but it was pretty shit. Later that night, I summoned the Frost Moon again in hopes of getting to the Ice Queen, but on day 33, I still hadn't gotten to her. I spent the rest of day 33 and half of day 34 getting a whole bunch of mob drops to make the Hunter's Symphony using the Essence of the Hunt, and it ended up being really mid. Afterwards, I visited Garradine, and she said she wants a deactivation block, but I'm really lazy, so I'll get it to her later. I then spent the rest of the day actually waiting for NPCs to spawn. On day 35, I fucking caved in and went to go look for the Jungle Temple. Eventually, I ended up finding the Jungle Temple and defeating the Golem. I got the Essence of Blood, and then on day 36, I got the Essence of the Moonlit Adepti and the Essence of Explosions. I ended up making the Genocide using the Essence of Explosions, and it was really fucking fire. And I also made the Mercy using the Essence of Blood, and it was really fucking fire. With these new weapons, I gathered up the courage to take on Penthesilea, the Witch of Ink. The Witch of Ink had been defeated, and I got the Essence of Silence, the Essence of Euthymia, and the Essence of Ink. I also got another mnemonic trace, and I think it's kind of like how Demon Slayer works. For those of you that haven't seen it, Muzan is a demon, and he gives his blood to lower ranking demons to make them even stronger. And I think this first Star Bear guy is also doing that. He's giving a piece of their rampage to various other people to make them stronger. After all this, I made Penthesilea's Muse using the Essence of Ink, and it was fucking awesome. I also got a piece to the attire of the Fairy Voyager. I have no clue what that means, no clue what it is, but I mean it sounds kind of cool. I ended up getting 2 new Stellar Novas and a new Stellar Prism to affix to them. I was trying out the Stellar Novas, but I decided to stick with the big ass sword instead. I ended the day making the Gloves of Black Silence using the Essence of Silence, and it was a pretty cool weapon. On day 38, I defeated the Lunatic Cultist, barely taking a scratch, and I got the Essence of the Ascendant, the Essence of the Unyielding Earth, the Essence of Liberation, and the Essence of Radiance. I then made the Ozma Ascendant using the Essence of the Ascendant, and it seems pretty good. After making that weapon, I got 2 more essences, the Essence of Quantum and the Essence of the Timeless. I had to make a difficult decision after getting all these essences, and I decided that there's a whole bunch of them that I'll turn into weapons and never end up using, so I decided not to make all of them. I ended the day taking down the Vortex Pillar. I started the next day by taking down the Solar Pillar. Afterwards, I made the Rex Lapis using the Essence of the Unyielding Earth, and it was super good. And I also made the Liberation Blazing using the Essence of Liberation, and it was super good. It does a whole bunch of damage, but it's just way too slow. I finished off the day making an Asphalt Path. I finished the Asphalt Path on day 40 and took down the Stardust and Nebula Pillar, but when it came to fighting the Moonlord, I ended up losing. On day 41, I defeated the Moonlord, but as a result, I got a new debuff as soon as he died that states, "Endless light blankets the sky. Foes are empowered and will periodically overflow with light." This whole light fiasco is being caused by the first Starfarer, but Perseus came down and gave me the Progenitor's Key to draw out the first Starfarer and defeat them. I then got the Essence of Eternity, the Essence of Adagium, and the Essence of Destiny. I made the Virtue's Edge using the Essence of Destiny, and it seems pretty fucking good. After I made that weapon, I also got the Essence of Starsong, the Essence of the Chimera, and the Essence of Souls. I then made the Soul Reaver using the Essence of Souls, and it's going to be very useful due to its teleportation properties. After I made this weapon, I noticed that due to this whole light thing, time never goes past 9:30 AM, so day 41 is going to last quite a while. For some of these newer aspected weapons that I have the essence to make, they need a broken hero sword, but since time is weird, it won't let me summon any sort of event whatsoever. After realizing my weapons were going to get any stronger than they were now, I decided to attempt the Warrior of Light, and he just kept getting harder and harder, man. After a miserable fight, I remembered that I still need to make the endgame armor, so I went to go defeat the Moonlord to make the Solar Armor. With the Solar Armor made and equipped, I attempted the Warrior of Light for the final time.
Underestimate me if you want.
I cannot fail. I will not. It cannot be.
My friend, this is no place to die.
duty. No, not yet.
I had defeated the Warrior of Light, but I felt kinda bad because Asphodine said that the Warrior of Light was led astray and lied to by the first Starfarer. But anywho, night came back, so the days continue on. I ended up getting a random assortment of parts and doodads and shit for some stuff, and I'm not sure what they do. I then got the Essence of Treasury, the Essence of Balance, the Essence of the Overwhelming Blaze, and the Essence of the Abyss. But because they don't benefit me anymore, I'm not going to be using the essences that make weapons other than Melee, Summon, or Celestial. Now if I'm being real here, looking at the boss list from earlier, I thought that I was done with the mod now that the Warrior of Light was defeated. But a new final boss was added after the Warrior of Light was defeated called Tsukiyomi, the first Starfarer. After all that, I made the Key of the King's Law using the Essence of the Treasury, but it was mid because I'm not a summoner. Now some of the other weapons that I'm going to make require more fragments, and I didn't want to fight the Lunatic Cultist again, so I just spawned the Celestial Pillars. But they all spawned at my location, and it went haywire for a second or two. I then went to the observatory and made the mnemonic sigil that is crafted out of the mnemonic traces that I got from the other bosses and is used to summon the first Starfarer. On day 42, I fought the Moonlord for more Luminite and made the Everlasting Pickaxe using the Essence of the Abyss, and it was a super cool pickaxe. I then made the Burning Desire using the Essence of the Overwhelming Blaze, and it was mid. I then made the Shadowless Cruellian using the Essence of the Chimera, and I got this essence a while ago, but this weapon was pretty good. Now I figured that with all of my newfound gear, I could go back to that one planet and defeat that one super hard boss, but I still lost. I ended the day deciding to make the Aegis of Hope's Legacy for Asphodine so I can get more buffs, but I needed a whole bunch of shit to make it. The main thing I needed for this was a Twilight Needle, and in order to make a Twilight Needle, I needed a Prismarite, so on day 43 I began fishing. There was also something I needed from the pumpkin, but I couldn't get that because I didn't have any pumpkins, so I decided to plant pumpkin seeds and wait till later to harvest them. By the time the clock had struck midnight, I had everything I needed for the needle except black fairy dust that drops from the pumpkin, but my pumpkins were not ready for harvest. The next day, I decided I would test out my current capabilities on the previous modded bosses. I ended up defeating them all, but I lost to the Warrior of Light. At the end of the day, I summoned the Harvest Mood, and things got very crazy into day 45, but eventually I got what I needed and made the Twilight Needle. Now the next step for this Aegis was a whole bunch of chest plates, and I spent the rest of day 45 and the next 2 days getting everything that I needed, but at the end of day 47, I finally made the Aegis of Hope's Legacy. During all the chaos, I did end up getting the rest of the life fruits, as well as getting the Essence of Life Thirsting and making the Blood Blade using the Essence of Life Thirsting, and it was alright. I was now almost fully prepared for this boss fight, but there was one thing left for me to do, and that was to unlock the rest of the Stellar Array abilities and choose which ones were the best. Now, in order for me to do this, I needed to defeat the rest of the vanilla bosses, so I defeated the Duke Fishron and defeated the Old One's army, which includes Betsy. But on day 49, I suddenly had all of the Stellar Array abilities. So after messing with the Stellar Array, I stuck with Healthy Confidence, which gives me an extra 150 health, and Beyond Infinity, which greatly increases my damage. With Beyond Infinity, my damage is doubled at above 500 HP, it goes down by 10% when under 500 HP, and increases by 10% for every 100 HP. To test and see the difference Beyond Infinity makes, I went to go defeat the Warrior of Light, and I can defeat him literally whenever now. Using the mnemonic sigil, I entered the Eternal Conflux, and holy shit was this boss fucking hard. It was really weird because the screen is like centered around the boss, but you have to like maneuver around the screen that's stuck in place. After dying a whole bunch, I decided to make the Resistance Focus Tier 3 for 7 more defense. But when I returned to the home world, I don't know what the fuck happened. My world fucking broke. I mean, the light was happening again for whatever reason, and my entire storage system broke. I could not access it, and all of the things were empty. I decided that I was just going to ignore it and continue trying to just beat her to finish this mod. And I tried beating her a whole bunch of fucking times, but kept losing. And there was this one try that I got so fucking close to beating her, but I lost. I literally only needed like 3 hits. I was getting super close to just giving up. I could not beat her. Until one fateful try where I managed the impossible. I had put an end to the first starfarer's reign, and Asphodine said that the galaxy was saved. I ended up getting something called the Spatial Memoriam that can be used to craft an incredibly powerful weapon. I also got the Essence of Luminance and the Essence of the Future. I then made the Ultimate Tool using the Spatial Memoriam, and this weapon is fucking awesome. I mean, it literally throws planets and shit down. It's crazy. I then spent the rest of the day getting materials for the new Essence weapons, and I accidentally right-clicked while doing this with the new Ultimate Tool, and oh my fucking god, whatever happened was awesome. I finished up getting all the materials on day 50 and made the Architect's Luminance using the Essence of the Luminous, and the right click is super duper good. I also made the Cosmic Destroyer using the Essence of the Future, and this weapon was even better. On day 51, I used the new weapons to beat the absolute fuck out of the first Starfarer.
I will bridge the gap between galaxies. You are nothing. Perhaps I was wrong about you.
Now after making all the endgame weapons and beating the fuck out of the first Starfarer again, there was only one thing left for me to do. And it was to go back to Lyra and defeat the Arbitration. Hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. I had this goal when I first started to get 1,000 subscribers after at least 1 year, and I not only reached that goal, but I overpassed it by just a few months. So thank you guys so much for continuing to support me, and I will continue pushing out great content that you guys will absolutely love. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you all later.